The night was quiet. The wind moved gently across the empty fields of an old ranch. Jack, a lonely cowboy, sat on his wooden porch, looking up at the stars. His hat rested low on his forehead, and his old boots were covered in dust. He lived far away from the town, deep in the countryside, where not many people came. It was just another silent night. Or so he thought. Suddenly, the sky lit up. A flash of orange fire streaked across the stars like lightning. Jack stood up quickly. His horse neighed loudly in the barn. Something was coming down fast, burning, spinning, glowing, and it hit the forest behind his field with a loud boom. The ground shook. Birds flew out of the trees. Even the cattle ran to the fence, scared. What in the world was that? Jack whispered. He grabbed his flashlight and rifle, jumped on his horse, and rode into the forest. The smell of smoke and something strange, something not from Earth, filled the air. After riding for 10 minutes, Jack reached the place. Trees were broken, and the ground was cracked. A large, smoking crater sat in the middle of the clearing. Something had fallen here, and it wasn't from this planet. Jack slowly walked closer. His flashlight shook in his hand. Inside the crater, something moved. He aimed his rifle, heart pounding. But when the smoke cleared, his eyes went wide. It was a small creature, not a dog, not a deer, not anything he had seen before. It had small wings, soft shiny skin that glowed blue, and eyes that looked too smart to be an animal's. The creature was shaking, scared, and hurt. Its tiny body had cuts, and it made soft, sad sounds. Jack lowered his rifle. "You're just a baby," he said quietly. The creature looked at him. Its eyes were full of fear and hope. Jack knew he couldn't leave it here. He took off his coat and carefully picked the creature up. It was warm, and its skin felt smooth, like glass and silk. It didn't fight him. It just curled into his chest and made a soft hum. That hum stayed in Jack's ears all the way home. Jack brought the creature to his old wooden barn and made a bed of straw and blankets. He placed it down gently and closed the door behind him. The creature looked around but didn't move much. It was weak. Jack gave it some water in a bowl, and to his surprise, it drank. "You ain't from here, are you?" Jack said, watching it. It made a small sound, like a purr mixed with a whistle. Jack stayed in the barn that night, sitting near the creature. He didn't know what it was. He didn't know where it came from. But he knew it was alone. Just like him. The next morning, Jack woke up to a strange sound. It wasn't the baby's hum. It was something else. He opened his eyes and turned his head. There, next to the little glowing creature, were two more, smaller than the first. One was red and the other silver. They all looked weak, shaking, and hungry. Jack stood up slowly. "Where did you come from?" The first creature opened its eyes and looked at him. It tried to speak. Jack didn't understand the words, but he felt something. A feeling deep in his chest. These weren't animals. They were children. Alien children. And now they were under his roof. That evening, Jack sat outside the barn, trying to think. What was he going to do? He couldn't call the government. They'd take the creatures, maybe hurt them, study them. And who would believe a lonely cowboy anyway? As the sun went down, Jack heard something strange. Click, click, hiss. The sounds came from behind the barn. Jack froze. He stood up, rifle ready. Slowly, he walked around the side of the barn. The grass was bent. Footprints. Not human. Long and sharp. His blood turned cold. Something else had come with those creatures. Something was looking for them, and now it knew where they were. The wind blew stronger that night. Jack stood near the barn door, his rifle in hand. He stared at the dark trees where strange sounds had come from just moments ago. Click, click, hiss. Whatever was out there wasn't human, but it was close. He waited a long time. No movement. No sound. Then slowly, Jack stepped back inside the barn. The glowing baby creatures were huddled together in the straw. Their blue, red, and silver skin shimmered softly in the dark. They looked up at him with wide, glowing eyes. Jack didn't speak. He didn't want to scare them. He just sat down on a crate, watching them. Something about them felt right, familiar, like they belonged here now. The next morning, Jack went into town for supplies, blankets, milk, fruits, and tools. He kept quiet. He didn't talk to anyone, not even old Sheriff Tom who waved from across the street. Jack had always been quiet. People thought he was strange, but today he had a reason. Back at the barn, the creatures were waiting. They had begun to move more now, stretching their little wings and crawling around. One of them, the red one, tried to breathe fire and coughed instead, sending smoke into the hay. Jack quickly stomped it out. "No fire in the barn," he said, half smiling. He placed the milk in front of them. To his surprise, they drank it fast. They were hungry. As they ate, Jack sat nearby and pulled out an old photo from his jacket. It showed him and a woman, smiling, young, full of life. She had passed many years ago. They had no children. Maybe this was fate. Later that day, Jack cleaned the barn. He made space, set up soft beds of hay, and even placed a lantern in the corner. While working, he heard something behind the haystack. A growl. Low, deep, not from the babies. Jack froze. He stepped back slowly and looked behind the hay. There, in the darkest corner, something large moved. Glowing yellow eyes opened. A full-sized alien creature lay hidden behind the straw. Wings broken, body bleeding from several deep wounds. Its breathing was slow, labored. It looked like the babies, but older, fiercer, and dying. Jack's mouth went dry. He gripped the wooden post beside him. "You're their mother," he whispered. The creature lifted its head weakly. It didn't attack. It just stared at him. Then suddenly, something strange happened. Jack saw a vision in his mind. The stars. A spaceship. The mother dragon flying through space. With her children. Then fire, screaming, explosions. Black ships chasing them. A crash. Earth. And darkness. Jack gasped. The vision faded. He looked at her. "You showed me what happened." The mother dragon closed her eyes. She trusted him. That night it rained hard. Thunder shook the sky. The barn creaked with every wind gust. Jack sat inside with the dragon family. Wrapped in a blanket, he watched the babies sleep near their mother. They made soft whistling sounds, their small chests rising and falling. Suddenly, the silver baby stood up and walked to Jack. It looked into his eyes. Then it used its tiny claw to draw something in the dirt. A circle with 3 stars inside it. Jack looked at it, confused. "You trying to tell me something?" The creature nodded slowly. Then from outside, a soft beep echoed. Beep. Beep. Click. Jack jumped to his feet. He grabbed the lantern and opened the barn door. Just a crack. In the grass was a small silver object blinking with a red light. A tracker. His heart sank. Someone had been here. Someone had left it to mark the location. Jack turned around. He looked at the dragon mother. Then the babies. They were not safe anymore. Whoever was chasing them had found them. Jack had been a cowboy all his life. He had seen storms tear fences apart, snakes slither into barns, and wolves steal cattle in the dark. But he had never felt fear like this. He stood in the barn doorway, staring at the blinking red light in the grass. Beep. 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 It was small, round, and not from Earth. A tracker. He picked it up carefully. It was cold and pulsing like a heartbeat. Alien metal, smooth and silent. Someone had been here. Someone had found the dragons. He crushed it under his boot, but the damage was done. Inside, the baby dragons were awake, feeling the fear in the air. They huddled together near their mother, who was still too weak to stand. The glow from their bodies dimmed. Jack looked at them. These weren't just creatures now. They were family. And family needed protecting. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat on the porch with his rifle across his lap. The wind had stopped. Even the trees were quiet. The stars above twinkled peacefully, like nothing was wrong. But something was coming, and Jack could feel it. The next morning, Jack set up traps around the barn. Not normal traps, smart ones. Motion sensors, pressure wires, old tech from his army days. He had been in a war once, long ago. He knew how to fight, and he knew how to wait. But this wasn't just any enemy. This was something bigger. As the sun went down, he noticed the animals acting strange. His horse wouldn't stop pacing. Birds flew away from the fields. The cows stayed close to the barn, noses in the air, sniffing something invisible. That's when the light came. Bright, cold, silent, not from the sky, but from the woods. Jack grabbed his rifle and ran. He reached the tree line and saw it. Tall, dark figure, glowing faint blue, scanning the ground with a long staff. It stood on two legs but didn't look human. Its arms were long. Its face had no mouth. Its head moved like a machine. It was searching for them. Jack ducked behind a rock. He held his breath. The figure stopped. It looked up, not at Jack, but at the stars. Then it raised its staff and tapped the ground. A hologram appeared, a spinning image of the 3 baby dragons. The hunter was confirming the targets. Jack's jaw tightened. They're being hunted like animals, he whispered. The hunter walked deeper into the woods, leaving behind a small silver disc in the dirt. Another tracker. Jack crawled forward, grabbed it, and ran back to the barn. He buried the tracker under a pile of old tires far from the house. But he knew now this wasn't over. The hunter was close, and it would come back. Inside the barn, the dragon mother opened her eyes. She looked at Jack, weak, but still proud. Jack stepped closer. They found you again. They're coming. The dragon mother blinked slowly. And then, just like before, sent a vision into Jack's mind. This time, it was clearer. He saw a planet, green and glowing. A city in the sky. Peaceful creatures flying freely. Then, dark ships, the same kind he saw in the vision before. They came like a storm, burning, taking, killing. The mother dragon and her babies escaped. But they were followed. The hunters never stopped chasing. Jack felt the pain, the loss, the terror. Then the vision faded. He sat down, eyes heavy. You don't just need a hiding place, he whispered. You need someone to stand between you and them. The silver baby dragon crawled toward Jack. It touched his boot gently. Jack looked at it. All right, little ones, he said, standing up. Time to get ready. He walked to the shed and opened a long wooden box. Inside were tools from another life, military gear, scopes, explosives, and an old communicator. He hadn't used this stuff in years, but tonight he would. He attached cameras to the barn. He set traps in a circle. He made decoys in the field. If the hunter came back, it wouldn't walk in easy. It would walk into a fight. That night, the sky was clear. The stars were quiet again. Too quiet. At exactly midnight, the cameras picked up movement. A new shape entered the field. Tall. Armed. And it wasn't alone this time. 3 more hunters walked behind it, all silent, all glowing faint blue. Jack looked at the screen. They're here. He turned to the dragons. Stay quiet, stay hidden. No matter what happens. The mother dragon lifted her head slightly. She nodded. Jack loaded his rifle. Outside, the hunters moved toward the barn. But they didn't know. The cowboy was waiting. The sky held its breath. Stars blinked like tiny eyes watching from above. And the wind didn't dare to move. The barn stood still in the middle of Jack's land, quiet, old, and now more than just a home for animals. Inside a family was hiding. A family not of this earth. And one man, a cowboy with a quiet past, had made a decision. He would not run. Jack finished setting the last trap under the tall oak tree near the barn. His hands were steady, his face covered in dust and sweat. The night air was cold, but his blood ran hot with purpose. He stood up and looked around his land. He had built this place with his own hands, fought for it, bled for it, buried love and loss in its soil. And now he would defend it again. But this time, he wasn't fighting for cattle or fences. He was fighting for them. Back inside, the baby dragons were curled up close to their mother. Their soft glowing bodies pulsed gently in the dark, like sleeping stars. The silver one watched Jack closely as he walked in. Jack knelt beside them and spoke softly. "I've seen war before," he said. "I know what it takes, and I won't let him take you." The mother dragon looked at him. Her eyes, though tired, were full of trust. Then slowly she raised her neck, weak, shaking, and lowered it toward Jack. Her head touched his shoulder. Sign of respect. Of thanks. Jack placed his hand on her scaled neck. "No matter what comes through that field," he whispered, "they'll have to go through me first." Outside, the sensors blinked. Movement. 4 hunters, just like before. Silent, glowing, inhuman. They were scanning the land, spreading out in pairs. Moving with machine-like precision. They were not here to ask questions. They were here to erase. Jack climbed to the top of the barn and lay flat with his rifle. His breath was calm. He had been a soldier before he was a cowboy. He had fired shots in deserts and jungles. But this was different. This was personal. He looked through the scope and waited. One of the hunters stepped into the trap zone. A silent click, a sharp spark. Then a blast of light. Boom. The creature was thrown back, legs twitching. The others turned instantly. No fear, no hesitation. They moved toward the barn. Jack took his first shot. Crack. It hit the lead hunter in the neck. Sparks flew. The thing staggered, but didn't fall. Jack cursed under his breath. "They're tougher than I thought." Inside the barn, the baby dragons were frightened. The red one tried to roar, but only managed a small spark. The silver one stood guard at the door, claws raised. Jack ran down from the roof and threw open a side panel. A hidden tunnel, dug years ago for cattle, led to the trees. "Go," he said. "If they get in here, don't wait for me." But the silver dragon didn't move. Instead, it ran up to Jack and placed its forehead against his chest. Jack froze. Then, it happened again. A vision. But this one was different. Not fire, not war, not death. This vision showed a choice. A man standing between stars and silence. A man who could turn away or stand up. A protector. A guardian. The dragon saw him that way, not as a cowboy, but as a hero. The vision ended. Jack looked at the baby dragon. "I won't let you down," he said. Voice rough. Then, the wall exploded. One of the hunters charged through energy weapon. Glowing in its hand. Jack fired. Twice. The hunter kept coming. Then, just before it reached Jack, a blinding blast of white-blue flame shot from behind. The youngest dragon, the smallest one, barely the size of a goat, had unleashed a powerful jet of alien fire. The hunter screamed, sparks flying from its body as it fell to the ground. Smoking, twitching, dead. Jack turned. The baby dragon's eyes glowed white. Its small chest rose and fell fast. Its siblings stared in awe. Even the mother lifted her head higher than before. Something had changed. The smallest one was waking up. Jack stepped forward, standing beside it. "They're gonna come harder next time," he said. He reloaded his rifle. "But so will we." The night had passed, but sleep never came. Jack stood in the open field, rifle slung over his shoulder, watching the horizon. The sky was beginning to change, that quiet, golden hour when night lets go and day starts to breathe. Sunrise. But this sunrise would be different. This one might end in fire. Behind him, the barn stood like a ship before a storm. Inside, the dragon family rested, but not peacefully. The air was heavy with fear, and the youngest dragon, the silver one, hadn't stopped pacing since the attack. Jack turned, walked back, and opened the barn doors. They creaked loudly in. The stillness. The mother dragon, though still weak, raised her head. Her golden eyes met Jack's. No words passed between them, but something stronger did. In agreement that they would stand. Together. Jack rolled out a hand-drawn map on the barn floor. 3 paths into this ranch, he said aloud, more to himself than anyone. East, west, and the creek. He pointed to a marked circle on the west side. That's where they came from last night. The silver dragon moved beside him and placed its claw on the creek path. Jack nodded. You feel them there now? It gave a soft grunt. Yes. The hunters were coming from 2 directions this time. They were learning. But so was Jack. He spent the next hour wiring up old junk, car batteries, pressure plates, even his grandpa's broken radio tower. It was all scrap, but Jack had learned something during the war. You don't win by being stronger. You win by being smarter. He placed decoy heat signals in the fields and set traps along the fence line. He even buried smoke flares near the water, ready to rise like ghosts if someone crossed. By the time the sun began to rise, the field looked empty, peaceful. But beneath the silence, the battlefield waited. Then they came. Shadows moved at the edge of the forest. 5 hunters. This time, taller than before, faster. They didn't walk. They glided like machines on rails, arms extended, scanning everything. They didn't roar. They didn't speak. They simply advanced. And Jack? He lit a match, placed it between his teeth, and whispered, "Let's get loud." The first trap went off near the creek. Boom. A fireball exploded from under the mud. 1 hunter was thrown into the trees. Its armor cracked. 2 more stepped right into a flare zone. Smoke burst up, covering everything in a thick green cloud. From the barn, a dragon roar echoed. Not a small one, not baby-sized. The mother had risen. Jack stood on the roof with his rifle, aiming through smoke and light. Crack. 1 shot hit a hunter in the neck. It stumbled. Crack. Another shot to the leg. Down. But then, a hunter got past the traps. Fast. Silent. It charged straight toward the barn. Jack shouted, "No!" He leapt from the roof, rolling hard, his shoulder burning. He raised his rifle, but the hunter was too close. Too fast. Too dash. FWOOM. A beam of white-hot energy shot past Jack's shoulder, hitting the hunter square in the chest. It stopped. Shook. Then exploded into pieces. Jack turned. The silver baby dragon stood behind him, breathing hard, its eyes glowing like 2 suns. Jack stared in shock. "You did that?" The dragon stumbled, tired, but alive, powerful. 1 last hunter remained, the biggest. Taller than a man, with armor that shimmered like black oil. It didn't run. It marched. Straight toward Jack. Jack raised his rifle. "Come on then." But before he could fire, the dragon mother stepped out of the barn, wings dragging, chest rising, eyes burning. She stood between Jack and the final hunter. This was her child's fight, her family's home. She let out a deep, ancient roar, not of anger, but command, and the baby dragons answered. Together, they unleashed a burst of color, red, silver, blue. A wave of flame, sound, and light. The final hunter screamed in static and disappeared into ash. Silence returned. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of victory. The sun finally broke over the hills. Jack looked at the dragons, then out at the smoking field. The traps, the fire, the broken metal. "They'll come again," he said. The silver dragon walked to his side and let out a soft chirp, but this time they'd be ready. Together. Asterisk. The smoke had cleared. The sun now sat high above the ranch, warm and golden. But the ground below still remembered the fire. Twisted metal, burnt grass. Scorch marks where hunters had fallen. It looked like a battlefield, because it was. But in the center of all this destruction stood a small silver dragon, glowing softly, breathing hard, eyes wide with something new inside. Power. Jack stood a few steps behind it. He hadn't spoken in minutes. Not since he saw the blast. Not since he watched the smallest dragon destroy a creature 10 times. Its size with a beam of pure energy. He looked down at his shaking hands. "I didn't even know you could do that," he whispered. The silver dragon turned to him, its glow dimmed. And it suddenly looked small again, tired, scared, not a weapon. Not a warrior, just a child. Jack knelt beside it. "It's okay. I saw what you did. You protected us." He placed a hand on its head. "You're stronger than you know." Inside the barn, the mother dragon lay still. Her breathing was slow, shallow. The other babies sat beside her, quietly humming, like they were singing a song only they could. "Here." Then she opened her eyes, and without a sound, she raised her head and looked at Jack. A new vision entered his mind, not fast or violent like before. This one came slowly, gently, like a memory being passed from soul to soul. He saw stars, not just one, but thousands, a map of the galaxy. Lines connecting, glowing planets, ancient symbols floating in space. Now he saw dragons, not hiding in barns or falling from the sky, but flying freely across the cosmos, proud, peaceful, wise. Guardians. They didn't breathe fire just to destroy. Their flames were sacred, passed down through bloodlines. Each dragon carried part of something called the heart flame, an ancient power, older than war, older than hate. But the hunters, they were sent to steal it. The vision showed the moment their world was attacked, cities burning, families taken. The mother dragon fleeing through space with her eggs, clutched close. Only 3 survived, and the silver one, the youngest, carried the last spark of the heart flame. That's why the hunters came. Not for revenge, but for that power. The vision ended. Jack opened his eyes, breath heavy. He looked at the silver dragon in front of him. "You're not just rare," he said softly. "You're royal." The dragon blinked slowly, like it understood. Jack stood and looked toward the sky. "They're not going to stop." That night, Jack worked in the barn with wires, broken alien metal, and scraps from the hunters' armor. He wasn't a scientist, but he'd taken apart enough enemy tech in war to know when a signal device was hiding in plain sight. With help from the mother dragon, he found one, a transmitter buried deep inside a hunter's chest plate. He spent hours rewiring it, rerouting power using car batteries and duct tape. It was ugly, messy, but finally, the screen lit up. A signal pulsed. And then a response. Not from Earth. Not from the hunters, but something else. A soft, golden wave of light blinked across the screen, the same color as the dragon's eyes. Someone, somewhere was listening. Jack leaned back in his chair. "They're out there," he whispered. "Your people." The silver dragon looked up at the blinking light, and for the first time, smiled. Suddenly, the barn lights flickered. The ground trembled slightly. Jack stood, alarmed. He grabbed his rifle, but before he reached the door, the dragon mother sent one final vision. No words, no sound, just a single image burned into Jack's mind. A massive ship, silver, ancient, beautiful, coming to Earth. And behind it, more hunters. The first wave was just the beginning. Jack stepped outside. The sky above the ranch was still quiet, but he knew now, this wasn't just about protecting a few lost dragons. It was about protecting hope. Because if the heart flame was destroyed, something far worse would follow. The ship arrived before sunrise. It didn't roar or flash across the sky like a falling star. It came silently, like a memory returning. It floated above the hills just past Jack's ranch, wide as a football field and glowing faint gold. Not the cold blue of the hunters, but something warm. Something alive. Jack stood in the field, wind brushing through his coat. Watching it, he didn't feel fear. Not this time. He felt peace. Inside the barn, the dragons were awake. All 3 babies stood in a line at the door, glowing quietly. The silver one, the smallest, the strongest, stayed closest to Jack. The mother dragon was stronger now. She stood tall beside them, her eyes no longer dim. She looked toward the sky, and then at Jack, and Jack knew. Their people had found them. The ship landed slowly, dust rising around its base. It made no noise, no weapons, no threats. The ramp opened, and from the light stepped creatures Jack had never seen. Not hunters, not soldiers, but guardians. Tall, elegant, with soft glowing skin like stone underwater. Their eyes held time in them. One of them stepped forward and bowed, not to the mother dragon, but to the silver baby. A prince, or maybe more. The last of the flame. Jack stood back as the dragons moved forward. This was what he had fought for. What he had nearly died for. Not glory. Not thanks. Just this moment. This choice. A family reunited. Safe. But then the silver dragon stopped. It looked back at Jack. And didn't move. The others waited at the ramp. The guardian turned, confused. Jack stepped forward, kneeling. "It's okay," he said. "You made it. Go." But the little dragon didn't move. Instead, it walked back toward Jack, slowly, and wrapped its glowing body around his arm. And then Jack heard it, not in words, not in sound, but in his mind, a feeling, a truth. "This is my home." The guardian understood. He stepped beside the mother dragon, placing a hand gently on her head. She looked once more at Jack. Her eyes were full, not of sadness, but of respect. And she turned toward the ship. She would go. The babies would go, but not all of them. One had chosen to stay. Jack watched the ship lift off again, slowly, silently, like it had never been there at all. Just a story in the wind. Just a flame in the dark. Later, the barn was quiet again, but not empty. The silver dragon, now stronger, taller, and wiser, lay curled near the fire. Jack sat beside it, whittling wood like he used to. Outside, stars twinkled over the fields. The ranch had changed. It wasn't just land now. It was sanctuary. And Jack? He was no longer alone. As the wind moved across the grass, carrying dust and stories and distant starlight, a new legend was being born. Not in books. Not in war, but on a quiet patch of earth, where a cowboy and a dragon once decided, home isn't where you're born. It's where you're chosen.